Oh, you caught me in a nostalgic moment. I was just looking at my teenage dirtbag photos. I was so young then. See? The good old days. Happy Halloween. I hope you are having an amazing Halloween month, our favorite month, our best month of the year for all of us horror fans. I can't believe that it's already over. It just really seemed to fly by this year, but I get to look forward to next year, and I'm going to be planning some diabolical plans for then. In today's video, we are going to be wrapping up everything that I read this month and also doing a tier list, aligning everything from the scariest to the not so scary. So I wanted to try and determine how I'm going to actually categorize these into these scary, sort of scary, kind of scary, not scary categories, I guess. So I decided that I would think about scenes or situations or something within the book, if there is one, that is unsettling or eerie or frightful, and use that as a gauge for determining how scary it is. So sit back, grab a drink, and let's talk books. Irony. So the first one we're going to talk about is Charlotte Says. Charlotte Says is a YA horror series that is about these Victorian porcelain dolls called Frozen Charlottes. This is the prequel to Frozen Charlotte. And this story is about Jemima. Maybe it's pronounced Jemima, I'm not sure, but I've been calling her Jemima. The story is about Jemima. She's a young woman who comes to become an assistant teacher at this school for young girls in the 1900s. And this sounds very exciting to her because this is giving her an opportunity to get away from some kind of a past that she has. Once she gets to the school, though, she realizes the headmistress is a tyrant and not pleasant to be around at all, and she's not even really sure how long she's going to be able to manage working with this woman. But also, while she's there, these tragic things begin to happen, and it's making her very nervous because it looks a little familiar to her. I loved this book. It is YA horror, and I don't read a lot of YA horror because I really do prefer the adult stuff. I just really do. But this one has some bite to it. It reads a little bit more, I guess, mature. Sometimes it's really hard to read books that are written for kids and teenagers and try to kind of, I don't know, critique it from an adult perspective because it's not written for me. But this one has some bite to it, which I really, really enjoyed. I totally forgot that it was a YA book. It has a lot of scenes that are creepy and eerie and unsettling, and there are a lot of scary moments. And a lot of those moments are kind of built around Jemima's past because we really don't get to know what it is for a long time. So there's this sort of forebodingness, this dread that sort of hangs around her. So there are a lot of secrets, and they're not nice secrets, they're real dark ones. The girls at the school, they are all of these, they're orphans, they're cast-offs, they are, the unwanted of society, basically. They were caught on the streets stealing, things like that. So you really feel bad for those girls just knowing that they don't have a future. Plus these have haunted dolls, so I'm all about that. So I would say that this is it's not a superior scary thing, and it's not ultra scary, but it's pretty scary. I'd say that there's a lot of scenes in here that are, I would say, are creepy and scary. So I'm gonna place this at B. Now the next one is Annabelle. This is a story about a little girl. She's 5 years old. She lives with her parents in Louisiana in this mansion. And somewhere off of her property, she discovers that there's this house, this abandoned house that looks like a castle to her. And when she goes over to investigate this castle, she hears someone calling this girl's name, Annabelle. So she goes over to investigate, and this kind of makes a connection that's not a good one for her. So what I thought was scary about this story was like there's a theme of like bad, abusive mothers in here, and bad moms who are horrible to their children is always kind of scary, creepy, uneasy, you know? And there's also this abandoned house. This abandoned house, when you get to explore it, there's holes on the stairs, there are windows that don't open, it's falling apart. There's obviously noise and things going on in there. There is definitely something spooky afoot. And then there's these dolls. These dolls that are like, I don't know, the size of a toddler walking around doing stuff. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would be like. I feel like this is like my perfect situation is like haunted dolls, abandoned house combo. Perfect. It's so fun and it's so surreal. If you've ever played the very first Layers of Fear, and if you've played it in VR, there is a part in that game where you go into a closet and for some reason there's this doll and the doll comes alive. And I played this in VR and out of VR, and just playing it in regular mode was like whatever, but when I played it in VR, it was weird. It was so weird to see this doll walking around me. It was so freaky. I loved it. So like Charlotte, I wouldn't say that this was super scary or anything, but it does have its really creepy, scary moments. So I'm gonna also give this a B. The next one is The Possession of Natalie Glasgow by Haley Piper. This is about a woman who believes that her child might be possessed because she is acting very strange and scary and intimidating and just really literally like freaking her out. And so she calls this woman who's a paranormal investigator to see if her daughter is possessed, and this woman comes to assess her. So when we meet the kid, it is really chilling. Like, it's disturbing. And when I was reading it, I was just like, ugh, like there's something really scary with this kid. Like, it's actually really creepy. And one of the scenes is when like the mom is describing like some event that happened to this woman. And she's like, I would put out this meat to thaw on the counter. It would still be frozen. I would come back and it would be on the floor and it would have like gnaw marks on it. And I don't know why that got to me, because I was just like, ugh, but it was really like, ugh. I can't even imagine being a mom and like seeing that. Like, what do you think, And this is one of those stories that has a scary kid. And the kid is scary. The kid is definitely scary. So I'm going to put it up there for A, because I just really thought this was disturbing. Okay, the next one is The Halloween Tree. It's not scary at all. It's cozy. This is a creepy, cozy book. And this is about these kids who get to meet this kind of strange character called Monshroud. I think it's Monshroud. And he sort of takes them around the world on this kind of magic carpet ride type journey and gets to learn about all of the different death rituals and rites from all over the world. It is very, very cute and it's beautiful. Like, it's beautifully written. The Halloween tree itself, like the actual tree in the story that has like, it's like an old gnarly tree, but it has all these beautifully growing jack-o'-lanterns all over to different sizes and colors, and like, that's creepy cozy. It's definitely not scary. So this is gonna go into the D category because no, it's not too scary. Code Red is about an asylum in Virginia that takes in these like young adults and teenagers to help them with their mental health issues. But one of them has a very rare condition called Renfield syndrome. And that's when you believe that you need to drink blood to survive. I need a little blood drink. One day, this patient ends up biting one of the nurses, and this little town becomes overrun by vampires. So some of the things that make this story scary are like the asylum itself. Like, asylums are always going to be scary. They're always going to be creepy, because I think we all have a fear that we're going to end up there. I know I do, and I'm just like, no, like, no. So they're always always going to be scary. There are also these freaky vampires in here where they just seem like they're really hard to get away from. And that feeling of being cornered, to me, is very scary. And then there's also this thing of like, am I a vampire? You know, I got bit, am I one now? What does this mean? So I would put Code Red in B. Cat Diary by Junji Ito. This is a collection of short stories illustrated by, obviously, Junji Ito about these two cats that he had with his wife. This is like, I describe it as kind of like a personal manga or something, like, because it's definitely sharing these personal stories and even like personal photos of the cats and everything. So it's really, 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 really cute. I think it's super cute. So it's not scary. There's nothing in here that's scary. It's not creepy to me either. Even though I do think it's kind of like a little creepy funny how Ito like illustrates himself going bananas over the cats, like, cause he's sort of like not into it, and then he totally just falls in love with these cats and he kind of gets cat crazy. That's really funny. So no, this is not scary at all. It's going into the D section. Mina and the Slayers. This is a YA vampire horror story about a group of teenagers who live in New Orleans, and they know that vampires are real. They get introduced to this group of people called the Slayers, who are this vigilante group who are trying to keep New Orleans safe from these very bad vampires. This is not a scary book. It does have some moments, though, of violence that were a little surprising to me. There's definitely some gore in here and everything, but I'd say that it wasn't like really scary. And I think that has to do with the fact that these teenagers have a pretty strong friend group. And so because they're so protective and helpful with each other, I think you feel very safe in where these characters are going to end up, you know? So we're gonna go ahead and put that one in the It's definitely, I think it should be in the C category. Because it's definitely scarier than Cat Diary and the Halloween Tree, like, for sure. Salem's Lot. Now, Salem's Lot is about a writer who comes back to a small town that he grew up in. He wants to write this book about the house there. But the house then ends up being rented by an outsider, like someone from Europe. And since this person has rented this house in this small town, you know, there's been some bad things happening, like some murders and some bodies like popping up, and no one's exactly sure how or why, but it seems like there might be a connection here. So Salem Lot, you know, it definitely has some horror, and it definitely has some horror. Most specifically, like Barlow himself, he's a disgusting, horrible sounding creature. Like, he's not a Lestat, you know what I mean? He's the kind of vampire that if you saw it in the night, you'd probably literally poop your pants. If you've ever met somebody for the first time and you got like a real bad vibe from them, I imagine it's like that, but like 10,000 folds, you know, just like that feeling of like, ooh, you're just gonna run away now. He also wants to be intimate with everyone, which is just double gross, you know, you're like, no, I'm not kissing those lips. The other thing is like the people of the town, like their secrets are dark and troubling. And there's also that small town horror aspect, you know, where people are changing into other things, and there's a lot of mayhem going around, and it probably feels so isolating and empty because there's not that many people. So I'm definitely putting this in the A lot. I would say that, yeah, it's pretty scary. So the first one is going to be Fractals by D.L. Tillery. This is from Served Cold. This is a anthology put together by Regina St. Clair and Steve Donahue. I'm also in this one too, but whatever. Yeah, so Fractals is about this couple. They're kind of having relationship problems, and they made these plans to go on a camping trip, but things aren't really working out as they do. But then, unexpectedly, the boyfriend ends up disappearing, and the girlfriend is left to kind of figure out like what happened. But there's There's something going on with her. So this is a monster story. So the scary thing in here is like, there's the monster, which causes some issues, but it's also like the bad relationship, right? Because I have been on so many trips with people where our relationship was dead like eons ago, but we decided to go because I don't know why. It is just stress. It's horrible. It's hives. That's all it is. Totally horrible. So I'll put this in the B category. The hard thing about short stories is I really can't tell you that much about it. So there would be a lot of things that I would like to tell you about it, but I don't want to ruin the story for you if you want to read it. The next story is also from Serve Cold. It's called Black Static by Dane Cobain. This story is about this character called Satan Claus, and it's about this family who tries to fight off Satan Claus, who comes to drink their blood. So the scary thing about this story is coming face to face with Satan Claus, who wants to drink your blood. It's during the holidays. You think it's going to be all like chestnuts roasting on the open fire type situation, but it's more like blood all over the mantle. Of course, Krampus comes to mind, who I think is just a delight. So I don't personally find those things to be scary, but there are other things that happen in this story that are pretty, dark. I'm going to put this in B. The next one is from Bitter Chills. It is The Burning Boy by Denver Grinnell. This story is about a guy who's like in his 30s, and he goes out to his balcony and he sees this kid on fire, like in flames. And he waves to the guy, and he's smiling, and then he just walks away. And as the story continues, we get to find out who this burning boy is, what their deal is, what their story is, and the story that we get to learn is very dark indeed. So there is a scene in this book that is of a crime scene, I guess you could call it that, and it's intense. It's intense. So that one scene alone just was really chilling, disturbing. Don't ever want to come across that in a real person, real life type stuff. So I'm gonna put this in the A because I felt this one was real scary. Julia by Andrew Cull. This is Terror in the Trench. So there's a couple of things with this which made it scary for me. One, hearing the voice of your loved one who is dead coming from a place it shouldn't. Like a really weird place. Julia is a story about this man who hears his wife's voice on a recording that was captured deep in the ocean. And he goes on this journey to find her. I think this situation is very scary because it sounds very dangerous, and it also feels like a setup. I'm like, who's luring you out there, man? But there's this one scene that sort of sticks out to me that was very horrible. It's when they're on the boat and they're going through the sea, and they found that they can't really move any faster than they are. They've been trying to gain speed, but they can't gain any speed, and it's because as far as the eye can see, it's just this ocean of dead fish. And they're going right through it, to get wherever they need to go. And it was just hellish. It's hellish. Very unsettling, very disturbing. So I'm putting Julia at A. Okay, well, I'm missing one book, but I'll put a picture of it up here. This is Papa I from the Dark Star. This story is about a doctor who goes to this island. He gets invited to be a resident doctor there because there's something kind of weird happening there medically with people. So he goes to basically help out and investigate. The story was definitely not scary to me. It was more like a weird story, like a weird tale type thing. But there's a scene that sticks out that's kind of creepy, which is like this girl who, I think it was a girl, she's dead, but then somehow she's not dead. So it was, I don't know, just a little gruesome, I guess, like what her crime scene was like. But I didn't really find the story to be scary. It was just kind of like a weird tale to me, really. So Papa Eye's gonna go in the D level. And now we're getting to the classic. As you know, The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe is like one of my favorites, and I think it's really chilling and just creepy and disturbing. So I'm gonna put it up there with A, because I just think it is. And the reason why is because we get to live in the main character's head the whole entire time. And, you know, they're really trying to rationalize a lot of things. And, you know, one of the things that they're trying to rationalize is like their drinking, but he also hurts this cat on purpose. And it was a cat that he was really loved and cared about. This cat is now like a witness, you know, it's an accuser. So it's very palpable. The story is so dark and disturbing. Like it was surprising to me because it's a pretty old story. It's like 18 something, like really late 18 something. The Empty House. The Empty House by Algernon Blackwood. Now this one's definitely not scary at all, but it's creepy cozy. You know, it's this guy with his old aunt who is just really excited about like exploring this house that she heard is haunted. And she even got the keys for them to go in there. So they go in there to just kind of explore. They get the time of their life, basically. So it's not scary, but it's really cozy and fun, especially them two together. Like they're really funny, you know, like she's like hanging on to him, you know, and he's feeling like really protective, you know, being like the younger guy. And also too, like he's just like always admiring her strength and her bravery. It's just really sweet and cute. So yeah, but it does have an abandoned house, and you know, that always adds a really nice creepy quality. So I'm gonna put The Empty House at D because it's definitely not scary. The Empty Tower by E.F. Benson. Now this is another one that's like, it's more of a weird tale. It's not really like a horror story, but this is about a guy who has a reoccurring dream for years and years and years and years and years, and he finally ends up in this place that is actually the setting of these dreams he's been having. So now he's, you know, going to be able to sort of complete the dream, you know, like find out what happens in the end type thing. The premise is really cool. Like I love this like reoccurring dream idea. That's kind of creepy in itself. Even though the dream that he has, it's not like really creepy or anything. It just sort of has this sort of little bit of like ominous tone, you know, towards the end of the dream. But I love the concept. It's so fun. I was getting really excited that he was going to see this house, you know, and we were going to learn what it was about or whatever. So it's really eerie, but it's definitely not scary. I'd say that's like a little spooky though. So I think we can put it at B. B? Does that make sense? B? No. That doesn't make sense. Let's make it a C. Like, for instance, Fractals and Black Static and Code Red. Yeah, which I think are scarier than The Empty Tower. The next one is Srendi Vashtar by Saki. The story is that this young boy has been taken in by his older cousin, who's really older. You know, she's probably like in her 40s or 50s, but you know, she sucks. You know, she hates everything joyful and like she's very withholding and petty. But the ending for this character in this story is very satisfying. So it definitely not scary. I'm gonna put a D. Afterward is an eerie story. It's about this couple who have purchased this Tudor home in England, hoping that it was haunted, but finding that it's not haunted in the way that they were expecting. Their real estate agent, I don't know what you called them back in the 1900s, but the real estate person was like, you know, it's sort of haunted, but it's not how you think. You'll know afterward. And they do find out afterward. So definitely not a scary story. I think the thing that probably makes it the most like eerie is that there's like strange people coming to the house. That, you know, anytime you live in a like kind of like a off of the road type location and people are coming to your house, that's always like kind of creepy, you know? So that was kind of like the creepiest part to me. So this is going to go in the D. The last one is The Horla by Guy de Maupassant. This story is about a young man who's like you know, he's being like happy-go-lucky, you know, he's living life. But then one day he begins to have this oppressive feeling that somebody is watching him. And he begins to come to the conclusion that he is being haunted by something. But it becomes so oppressive to him that he becomes obsessed with finding out what this is. Now, this is a nice little creepy story. It's a lot of weird, cool, spooky things that are happening, you know, like hearing voices, pages turning by themselves, the things falling. That's kind of, you know, driving you crazy. It wasn't scary per se, but I would say that it's definitely scarier than Afterward and Serenity, The Empty Tower, and The Empty House. So I think I'm gonna put it at, do I want to do B for that? Yeah, I guess B. I guess B, because the thing that makes it scary is like there's this thing you can't see. It's like following you around. It's just, you know, watching you. It's staring at you, but you can't see it. And then you feel so alone and you're just trying to find a way to get this thing away from you. So that was my wrap up and tier list for everything that I read in October. I hope that you're going to have a wonderful Halloween. And if you're staying home, I would suggest that you watch the Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix. I heard that is so good, and that's what I'm going to be doing. And then I'm going to try and watch some old school favorites if I can. Whatever, I'm going to be watching a bunch of junk. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please like and comment down below if you like this video. And if you'd like to get some more videos from me, please subscribe. Other than that, please take care of yourselves, look out for each other, and I will talk to you next time.